Hello, fellow YouTubers. This is DVD Collector 1986. Today I'm going to be doing a review of a fan film called Never Hike Alone. It is a Friday the 13th fan film directed by Vincent DiSanti, and it stars a man named Andrew Leighty. Hopefully, I'm pronouncing that correct. His character's name is Kyle MacLeod. There's this stigma in the YouTube movie community that fan films never measure up to official sequels or stuff like that. That they're below the official sequels. They're never going to be as good, and but I will be the first one to tell you this is a good movie. I love Never Hike Alone. Um, it's a really good movie. So I'm gonna get into what the movie's actually about now. So there's this guy named Kyle MacLeod. He's a like a blogger, but he's also a survivalist and outdoors type person that does hikes and likes to go on trails. He's an adventurous outdoor type. He's the kind of person that if he was a real person, uh, this would be the type of person that would like to go try to climb Mount Everest, things like that. He's an adventurous type. So he is on a hike um, by a lake, and he doesn't know. I mean, he knows what forest he's in, but uh, he stumbles upon this abandoned campsite, and there's a sign laying on the ground that's been knocked over. It says Camp Crystal Lake, and he goes to this area that is supposedly not marked on his official map that he has of the area. That's what makes him want to go explore it. And there's a reason why it's not marked on the map, obviously. And so, long story short, he figures out that he's at Camp Crystal Lake. He's heard all the stories of Jason and Mrs. Voorhees and all that. And he thinks they're all, just spooky, superstitious ghost tales. He doesn't believe it. He's just like, yeah, I ain't afraid of no ghost. It's just an abandoned campground. So um, he goes there, and lo and behold, he starts exploring, and eventually he stumbles upon or cross paths with Jason Voorhees. And from there, they have a few scuffles. His survival skills are put to the test, and um, it's a really good movie. I like it because it's different than the other Friday the 13th. Not that there's anything wrong with the formula of a Friday the 13th film, but you know how these movies go. You got a group of young teenagers. They uh, show up at Camp Crystal Lake, and they start doing bad things, and pretty soon Jason starts killing them off one by one by one. They're cannon fodder. You know how these movies work. And that's all well and good. Those are fun movies. But what I like about this movie is that instead of a whole bunch of people, it's one guy versus Jason. It's a one on one, it's a cat and mouse thriller. And this guy who really is a good outdoors survivalist has to put his skills to the ultimate test, like I said. And, um, Jason's trying to get him. He's hiding from Jason, evading Jason. And ultimately, it leads to a big showdown. But I love everything about this film. The guy who directed it, Vincent DeSanti, he got everything right in this movie. The look of Jason, perfect. Um, the uh, the music, also perfect. There's a scene when he goes into this abandoned cabin. It's a pretty big one, and it has some like big windows that are kind of pointed up like this, kind of like an arrowhead, and they're stacked. And of course, the windows are busted out, so light floods into the cabin through those broken windows. Well, there's a scene when he goes into that cabin and he comes upon a fireplace and he decides he's going to make a fire and stay there for the night. He hasn't found Jason yet at this point. And so he is looking up into the fireplace to make sure that, everything is working properly, that it's not blocked off. And the music that plays at that scene when he first walks into that cabin and walks up to that window, I love the music in that scene. But the music is perfect. Jason's perfect. I like the way that the character of Kyle is played, and I'll also say that this film, he has a camera on him where he films himself and he talks directly to the audience. And that's not something you usually see in a Friday the 13th film, but I thought it was a welcome addition. I'm not a fan of found footage films, but the way they use the camera in this particular instance, it works. And I really enjoyed how he's talking to the audience, and the way that the camera was used. It just worked. And there's a lot of there's some tense scenes in this film. The way it's shot, and whenever he has his um, confrontations with Jason, because he runs into him more than once. The way it's played out, very believable, very realistic, and very well shot and very well done. And the gore effects were excellent. Some of the best I've seen in a fan film. And it's just a fun movie. And I like it so much that I consider it official canon. And to anyone out there that says, oh, this film, people are, over exaggerating, this film is not near as good as an official sequel. I'd like to see you make one better. Um, it's one of the best fan films I think I've ever seen. There's a big uh, thing that happens towards the end of the movie. I don't want to give that away. Of course, most people have seen the movie by now, but I'm not going to give that away. Um, I There's a character that shows up that really sealed the deal for me as far as this movie being a perfect fan film. The only negatives I can think of really are two. One, I wish the movie had been like 80 or 90 minutes, but that's just me. I'm grateful for the 54 minutes that I got. And the second negative is when Jason is walking around, the heavy stomping, I think, was a little too exaggerated. But other than those two things, the movie to me is perfect. Let's be honest, folks. I love the Friday the 13th. Uh, they, not as much as the Halloweens, but I love the Friday the 13th. And let's be honest, there's some good Friday the 13th films in the official line of sequels, and there's also some turds in the series. This fan film, I would argue, is far better than some of the sequels in the official line of sequels. Um, and that's really how I feel about it. In closing, I would just like to say that give fan films a chance. There's some really good fan films out there, not just this one. A lot of people have a feeling, like I said earlier, that fan films are just bad. But that's not always the case. Some of these fan films are so good that they give the official sequels a run for their money. And I like that these fan films exist because these stupid movie studios can't get their stuff together and figure out how to give the fans a new sequel, especially like in the case of Friday the 13th. Fans like having these sequels and they keep having problems with the rights and this and that, and they can't get nothing figured out. So the fans are like, you know what? If you studios can't figure it out, we'll just make a sequel ourselves. And that's why I like Never Hike Alone. So, in closing, I will say that it's a great sequel. I call it a sequel because I consider it official canon. If I was to give it a rating, I would give it a solid 9 out of 10. I'm not kidding. It's that good. And thank you, Vincent DeSanti, for bringing us fans such a great Friday the 13th film. We really appreciate it. I really appreciate it. And I love the film. So make us a sequel soon because I'd like to see uh, a sequel to this. I want to see some more of your work. It's awesome. So I hope you guys enjoyed the review. Thank you for watching, and I will catch you guys next time. Thanks.